regular monthly meeting of the City of Helotes Planning and Zoning Commission. It's August the 1st. It's 7 p.m. Ask the Commission Secretary to call the roll, please.
Greg Michelle.
Here.
Buck Russell.
Here.
Ann Caraway.
Here.
Jason Wayman.
Here.
And me, Alex Blue.
We also have Michael Gallardo from staff and David Cato's back there, our council liaison. We do not, Michael, have any citizens to be heard, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we'll move to item 4, which is discussion and action of the minutes from our special meeting, which was on July 11, 2023. If there are any corrections or edits or revisions, please bring those up now, or we can have a motion.
I move to approve the minutes of the special meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission dated July 11th, 2023.
I'll second.
As submitted, correct?
Submitted.
Great. So the motion is to approve the minutes of the special meeting.
I'll still second.
It's still seconded. Well, I figured. All in favor of approving the minutes, please signal aye.
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 Opposed, the minutes are approved. Our next item tonight, number 5, is discussion and action on a request by Liberty Signs for approval of a monument sign pursuant to Code of Ordinances, Chapter 66, Section 49. Commercial signs, single business use monument type for Ranch Creek Living at 16532 State Highway 16. You have material in your packet. Michael, is there anything additional we should have?
No, sir.
Is
Pretty
there-
straightforward.
Is there a representative here if there are questions?
Yes.
We're at, right, okay, just if there are questions, so you're good for right now. So I'm gonna turn it over to the commission to open the discussion. If there are comments or questions about this item.
I had no questions about this.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward.
I have no questions.
I have one question. I think, Michael, you could answer it. It is a two-sided sign, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, just making sure. All right. And this is an approval item. So if there is a motion to be made, make it an approval motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve sign in discussion of an action on a request by Liberty Signs for approval of a monument sign pursuant to Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 66, signs, Section 6649, commercial signs, single business use, monument type for Ranch Creek Living, located at 16532 SH 16, Helotes, Texas.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion, Jason,
Everything was in compliance.
No.
Alex, or Buck?
Oh, sure.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the request by Liberty Signs for the monument sign pursuant to Code of Ordinances, Chapter 66, Section 49, that is signs, commercial signs, single business use monument type for Ranch Creek Living, 16532 State Highway 16. All in favor, please signal aye.
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 Opposed? This motion is approved. Y'all, thank you for being here. We can move to our next item, number 6, which is discussion and action on a request by Wayland Waymeyer for approval of 2 non-conforming signs relocated due to the FM 1560 roadway expansion by TxDOT. Considering the required relocated signs pursuant to code, Chapter 66, Section 61, non-conforming signs for Burning Bush LLC, located in the city of Helotes, extraterritorial jurisdiction 10020 FM North FM 1560. 2 signs, sign A at the entrance to the property and sign B located along FM 1560, 327 feet south. So that's a mouthful, but we got it all out there. So Michael, do you want to introduce this for us? I know, gentlemen, you guys are back. Thank you for coming back. I'm sure we'll have questions, but turn it over to you first, Michael.
Okay. So if I can just, kind of give you a little bit of a timeline and we'll kind of go from there. As you stated, the applicants are here for further discussion. I'm going to kind of go through this. So back in 2016, City Council and P&Z approved the addition of the bottom portion of this for container solutions. You can see that the top part was existing and the second part was what was proposed. Both passed in 2016. There were some contingencies on how that would pass. Number one would be that you can see how it's kind of flapped here, dilapidated somewhat. The materials, going forward would have to be higher grade. And then they also asked for, at the base, some landscaping. Okay. So that was back in 2016. So as of 2016 to the present, no other sign permits had been issued other than temporary banners and things of that nature, which they allow to have on their property. Going back and doing some research, we don't have the exact original dimensions of the sign. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. So fast forward to 2022, this is where the sign sat, okay? And you can see how close they are to FM 1560 there.
This is the original.
Yes, these are the original signs that, back in 22 as of last year where they were sitting for the most part, 2021 and so forth. So at that point, when you look at the signs, they had already dropped this portion, and I'll have a better photo of that for you. But I just want you to kind of bear in mind, or the takeaway from this is look at how close it is to the street, okay? So along comes the textile project. So one of the things that you're gonna notice is the expansion project is gonna go from 2 lanes to like 4 lanes, and actually a lane in the middle there. So approximately 4 lanes, right? So textile comes and proposes to purchase approximately 40 feet of the right of way. Okay. So the yellow arrows indicate where the line, where the sign and fence have been moved. Approximately, we're looking at 40 feet and then the sign's approximately about 46 feet. One of the things I do kind of want y'all to kind of take a good look at is you'll kind of see here the indentation of how the ground the topography. So it kind of goes into like a little bit of a ditch there. Okay. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. But again, this is where the fence was. This is how it got pushed back. So of course they submit their applications. This is what the fence looked like. I'm sorry, I apologize. This is what the sign looked like in 2022. Okay. This is the first one, which is actually located right here by the entrance. Okay. And again, we don't have the exact dimensions of that based on research. And you'll see that they replaced the bottom with theirs, no longer the container, Texas containers, I believe that's what they were called. So fast forward to today, okay? So this is what the sign looks like currently. So I went from this to the V-shaped sign, which the applicants will speak to in a second.
And Michael, for clarification, if you go back to the one slide there, this right here, that bottom piece went in, was that the 2016?
So
or was the 2016 the container one?
this is the 2016.
Okay,
And then, and I'm sure the applicants will
Okay.
speak to that. We have no record of like when that was, and we have no record of when that was installed
Okay.
or removed or swapped out. But this is what the sign looked like roughly last year. And then this is what, the sign looks like today, okay? So just kind of be wary of, or, cognizant of the dimensions of the sign as well. So having said that, we talked a little bit about the topography and how the current sign kind of goes down into a ditch. So here are some photos of where, the elevation, the grade level from this road to where they're at now. I think we discussed that with the applicants, and I believe it's somewhere around 11 feet of a difference or a drop there. So you can kind of better look at this. So this is the original sign. So now if you look on the right-hand side, you'll see that the sign's been pushed back. And obviously you see the topography kind of drops down a little bit there. So just something to take note of. So we're looking at roughly 46 to 47 feet back. Make sense?
back meaning away from the street.
Away from but yeah, so they gave up that right away and they're having to move back away from the street. So we'll look at the second sign real quick. So this is what the sign in 2022 looked like. This is what it looks like now. So again, you can kind of see the topography and how they've had to push it back. This is before and after. Any questions so far?
Yeah, I do. I have just a question for you. So I just want to be clear. So are they trying to get we're trying to get the signs in as maintenance? Because you don't have the list of non-conforming. Okay.
Yep.
So
What
Okay.
what the applicant, and I'll let him speak to that, but basically what the applicant is saying is these are non-conforming signs that were required to be moved per text dot. So in their view, it's kind of like a forced maintenance that they had to do. But at that point, they took the liberty to upgrade them and modify them somewhat.
and how are we defining maintenance in the code? Can you read that for me, Will? Or do you have
It's
that?
not in the code,
It's not in
I
the
don't
code.
believe.
Okay.
Well, if you look at right here,
I just,
where it says removal. So that's one of the questions that I posed to the commission. It actually says there that the removal of the sign, but it's allowed if it's for maintenance. So that's what the commission is gonna have to determine, is it, are you gonna justify this as maintenance?
Okay, so let me give Mr. Waymire a chance to just be brief, and then I'm sure we'll have questions, but put your name and business address on record.
Waylon Waymeyer, the business is 10020 North FM 1560, San Antonio, Texas 78254. So yeah, if we go, so basically we did some more research, and so it actually, that what he had there, we found like a deal where it says like forcible maintenance, because we were those signs originally were up before we were in Helotes ETJ, and so like grandfathered in kind of deal.
Sure.
And so since the state was coming in and doing their widening, we just assumed that we could move them back, but since we were getting some money from the state, we went ahead and upgraded them, made them look a little better. We didn't mean to do any of this by any means or try to cause any problems. We're just trying to make them look better. We kept them, the actual sign square footage themselves is the exact same. It could be, we don't have the height on what those signs were. They could be a foot or two taller, but they're the actual square footage of the letters or whatever, the face of it is the exact same basically. And so anyway, also on if we go to that one slide where we're showing the elevation, the next one, yeah, right there. So that's a automatic level transit that we're shooting there. So that orange you see right there, like above his head, couple feet above his head, that's actually the level with the street. So like when we're out on the pavement, that's the same exact level right there as it is on the sign there. And so anyway, I know some of the problem you're worried about was the height, but we were trying to go for just all the rigmarole to try to get it into conforming it. And so I know that was one of the issues, but anyhow, to me, it seems like forcible maintenance. There was no other option, dealing with the state. Like we had to move the sign back because they were taking away the land kind of deal. So anyway, that's why we're trying to hope that it's forcible maintenance. We're keeping the same size, actual face of the sign. The only thing that's different is we did V that one sign. And main reason for that is the big street that we had talked about coming across 1560 to get the view on it, because it's coming like dead into our property there. They're supposed to put in a light, actually. I was like, on that sign, so where our driveway is, right, like on the left there, kind of where that white spot is. Almost, well, it's directly across from our driveway is going to be that major street cutting from Elm Road over where everybody's going to be cutting around. Yeah, it's going to be a 4-lane. I think it's 4-lane and a turn lane also.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you remember last month when we talked about the signage for Sagebrook, this is Sagebrook right here. Okay, and then right directly across from the sign is where they already installed Bend Canyon. So there'll be traffic coming from Sagebrook out into FM 1560, and the name of the road is Bend Canyon. And if you go further down to the right here, they have another street called Sagebrook Run. So, I'm assuming that's why you did the V.
Yeah.
That side.
To catch that road there where they'll be able to see it. And then they're actually, on that one picture, you can see it. So they're doing 5 lanes. So it'd be 2 lanes each direction, a turn lane, then 2 bike lane on each side, and then a sidewalk on each side. And so they made it like super wide, but we just assumed that there was kind of forcible maintenance. Cause we have no other option. Like we haven't even settled on all the stuff with the state. They basically just took away the land and we're still, I mean, they said it could be years before we ever even settle the land in court. And so it's technically kind of strange because we're still paying tax. We still have to pay property taxes on it, even though they took the land away. Is like a crazy thing to me too. But anyway. Anyhow.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's open it up for discussion and let's probably stay up there. There might be some questions. So who would like to begin? Comments or questions? Buck, go ahead.
So was it an eminent domain? The state was going to take the land from you?
Yes, sir. Yeah, they have taken it. They, like I said, they've taken the land. That's why we had to move our fence back and everything. And so they have taken it, and we're still, like I said, according to the attorneys, it could still be years before we ever actually settle, but they have possession of it as of right now.
And then their new right of way is all the way up to your new barbed wire fence where it's currently installed now.
Yes, sir. Yeah, the right of way will be the new barbed wire fence. Yes, sir. And we actually moved before our sign was all the way on the barbed wire fence. And so we actually moved it back. I think it's 6 to 7 foot further back from the property line. Whereas before the old signs, we had them right on the property line. So we actually moved it back another 6, 7 foot just so we could mow around there a little easier and stuff as well. So.
Sure. Okay. So just some questions and some concerns. I mean, we have clearly increased nonconformity of the first sign by making it wedge shaped. And I think there's been a lot of discussion about that. We're not crazy about those. They're not really allowed by code. It had previously been a 2-sided flat sign, and now it's not anymore. And whether or not there's some, extenuating circumstances of this road, I think it's, we can discuss that. The height, I don't have a problem with the height in and of itself. One concern though is that clearly the old sign was 2 tenants, and the new sign doesn't really seem to be a multi-tenant sign. It seems like it's all one business. I mean, we clearly had, Burning Bush and then a separate business with Container Solutions, and now it seems to be just one sign of one company. And then the third concern is that second sign, it seems like that also has been altered pretty significantly because it doesn't, clearly is not the same set of posts that's holding that up. It's, they were kind of inset on the old one. And so it looks like that kind of got rebuilt and maybe a little taller than it had been. So there's a fair amount of, increase of nonconformity, despite the fact that we're, moving it in. I totally understand that. And I think there's some grace that needs to happen there.
On that sign there, like I said, we're trying to make it look better. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess everything's in the eye of the beholder. That sign, the posts are just set in. So they're both 4x8 sheets of plywood is what both of them are made out of. And so that one, the posts are just set in, like a foot on each side.
But we did make this one a little bit taller because it's further down in the ditch.
Oh, yeah.
It's because of the road elevation, that hill comes down all the way to the creek there.
And is that one, so do we have vertical on that one where it is relative to the crown of road? You've showed the other one where it looked like it was, forgive me, it was about 5 or 6 feet above, or the base of it where it hit the ground was about 6 feet below crown of road.
It's the same.
It's about the same.
Yeah, we shot them at the same. The front post is the same on both sets of signs.
Okay, so this one would be more or less 12 feet above as well.
It'd be 11. It'd be 7 foot above pavement on that one from where the pavement is currently. And I'm assuming they're going to build it up just because they're trying to keep that water off the roads. And so even the way it is now, the pavement should get just taller, basically. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It shouldn't get lower. They're not going to bring it down to grade or anything as far as that goes.
You good? Well,
Yes.
and you wanna go?
I guess I totally feel sorry for you guys because I know that you probably just moved the sign and said, oh, we're going to upgrade everything, and didn't really realize that you had to get it approved, and now you're trying to backpedal. And my problem with that is that we have to be consistent. And like, for me to say, oh, this is all maintenance, when it's very clear to me that it went beyond just the maintenance step. And in good faith, you wanted it to look better, which I'm all for that. It's just that this is more than just maintenance. It's a change of the sign. And I drive by, I live off 1560. So I drive by there a lot. That sign B, I have to be honest with you, the print is so small on that that did y'all notice that? And
What's-
also, so I'm kind of going,
what's-
what is the benefit of this sign you have here?
What's-
Because it's just not, it's not large enough, and it just kind of repeats what you have on the other side.
Mhm.
So it would be beneficial if y'all had something
Another,
better for you, and whoever you paid to do the sign, maybe they should give you a break on it, because first of all, they should have gotten the approval.
I'm in 1,000.
Or did your cousin do it or somebody? So you're like,
That's the bad part. It wasn't my cousin. It was Eagleford Graphics here, and I don't. They usually send stuff over for approval, and they did. But when they send it on approval, like, I'm not a graphic designer by any means, and so when they sent it for approval on my phone, it looks great, and I'm like, yeah, go ahead. And then when we got it, I was just like, oh, that was a huge waste of money. Like you said, it is.
I mean, you have to be on
and-
top of it to read it, and I mean, I have bad eyesight, but
Yeah.
still,
No,
even with my glasses.
I-
So I'm not
Mhm.
crazy about that for y'all personally, just the
Mhm.
advertising, but that's not my business. But I feel like this cannot go under just a maintenance. And, I hope that you could make some deal with them to redo this, because I just feel if I was to approve this, it would be not fair to all the people who actually came before us and got approval before they did. I have no problem with you. I agree with you. You had to go move those signs. And on that part, I don't blame you. And I think you're exactly right. It was eminent domain. They took it and you had to move your sign.
Mhm.
It's just that, and you didn't realize it because you're an ETJ and this is all new, but at the same time, as badly as I feel for you, I also feel like I have to be consistent with all the people who, were aware and went and approved it. So for me, this is not, I cannot approve this under the maintenance only. Okay, so, that's all
All right, Alex, comments, questions?
I think a lot of the comments have been made. I think that the sentiment that we want to make it work somehow, but are trying desperately to figure out a way to do so without setting a precedent that's going to cause us trouble with others. And that's exactly what we're regularly seeing here, is that when we say, well, it doesn't comply, and then somebody, well, look at that sign and look at that sign, and you approve that sign and that sign, and so now you should do it for us too. And then we end up losing control of what goes on. So there's the frustration, is that we sympathize with the situation and want to make it work, but haven't figured out exactly how to accomplish that without creating that. The other thing I get when you go the elevation, and we've had discussions with signs in the past about where they are in relation to the road itself. Multiple signs over the years in ETJ and in city limits, where our guidelines say that the sign has to be a certain height above the grade of that. And so we get somebody where the road is low and they say, well, wait a minute, you can't apply that to me because the road's 4 feet below. So that means my sign can only be, and I want it to be above the grade on the side of the road because that gives me my 8 feet and I can't compare it. And then we're flipped now here, we're saying, but the sign's down low. So now we want to use a different standard. And so it creates a bit of a complication. So we have to go based on what the code says. I would tell you though, that as you look at this and based on the size of the road that's intended, with 5 traffic lanes, a bike lane and a sidewalk, the edge of that sidewalk, you're going to have a massive drop off. And you're probably not going to see much of the bottom of that half of that sign to begin with by the time they finish. Now you can, because there's a grassy slope.
Yeah.
By the time they do that sidewalk, you're not going to see, your sign is going to be a completely different scenario. And I don't know how they're going to.
That's why
for you.
we kind of backed it off the fence some,
Yeah.
hoping, because even our driveway, I don't even know how they're going to do our driveway right now, because it's already steep. Like, we have big low boys and stuff come in and they drag coming in. And so I'm not sure how
So
they're.
I think the struggle is how to figure out how to accommodate the situation
Mhm.
without giving away the precedent that it might set, because you're not the only sign that's going to come up, right? TxDOT's going to be extending further down the road.
Mhm.
And there are other signs that are going to be affected that they're going to come to us as well, trying to figure out what to do. There may be a neighborhood sign or two that's going to still have to be dealt with because they went in that direction from this side and all that. So I think we're struggling with it. I mean, we want to say, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, I've got my old signs. If I can, I mean, I guess
Yeah,
it
well,
would be, that would be maintenance. I could just
I'm
put
not sure
them
that's
back.
the right approach either, so I don't know.
I mean, like I said, I'm not trying to cause problems. I just,
Let me add a couple things if I could. And I think this is what you're about to say, correct me if I'm wrong. You do have that entry sign.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of cool that,
Yeah.
the
Burning
higher the.
oh yeah, just on the
Yeah.
gate. Yes,
Which is
sir.
kind of neat. So in a sense, that's a type of signage, if you will.
Mm,
The other thing that I think will work to your benefit, and you alluded to this, given what they're doing to that road and the new road they're building, there's got to be traffic control there. There's no way there cannot be.
mhm.
It may take a little while, but if there's traffic control, that's going to slow your traffic down there, which I think would be beneficial for, people seeing the surroundings and whatnot. I kind of share the feeling other folks have. I do worry about the fairness and the precedents being really important. And to Ann's point about that second sign, I mean, I don't know. I mean, think about value added. Does it?
Mhm.
I mean, one thing you might just want to think about is like, is that really necessary?
Yeah,
Given
I mean,
given what it
blocks.
says, it's hard to read, so that may be just something
No,
to
but
think
he's-
about.
mhm.
So let me ask the question to Michael in terms of action by this group. It's a non-conforming sign, and we can't approve non-conforming signs unless they fit under that one exception that you pointed out, that maintenance exception.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? If it was truly a maintenance, the staff wouldn't have brought it here.
Say that again?
If it was truly maintenance in the eyes of staff, they wouldn't have come here with it.
Yeah.
Am I right? You handle maintenance of signs all the time, that they don't come for approval. Approval is required because variances are involved.
We kind of tried that the last time, and I believe that there was a disagreement between you and Ann regarding maintenance. So,
No, that was the Old Town Helotes,
So-
and I won that one.
so I figured that the consensus was that you guys wanted everything brought before you.
Well, we're saying, he said, this clearly is not a maintenance.
Well, hang on a second. Let me go over here for a second.
Just in fairness to split the baby with that sentiment, I mean, I think that's the reason why they brought it is,
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
is it maintenance or not? Can we buy that it's maintenance? And that's kind of our job is,
Code does not speak to the question of maintenance. There's no like formal definition of what determines something as maintenance.
The way I mean, to me, it was read as forcible maintenance. And I mean, if legally the state's taking away my property, I don't know how there's anything but forcible maintenance. Otherwise, my other sign would still be there.
Here's the problem with it. I think the sticking point for
Mhm.
some of the commission is that I think everybody agrees what you just said. If you'd taken those same exact signs and moved them back 40 feet and said, we had to do it, I think there would have been, that would be easier to wrap our minds around. You then took the next step, and I don't really blame you for this, right? Because they are, I think, many people would say an improvement,
Mhm.
aesthetically.
Yeah.
And you did, but it's totally outside of code. That's where the issue is. And it's kind of like, no good deed goes unpunished type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we have the old signs, so I'll be happy to put them back up, but I was just trying to
Well,
make them look better. And
I mean,
so,
I think I'll
it's-
open this back up to folks, but I think that we should take a vote. And I think that we need to take a vote. We need to take action. If the vote is not in your favor, I do encourage you to appeal to city council, because I think this is a significant enough issue. The circumstances this is kind of unique. This is not your typical issue. We have our council liaison in the room who's hearing the discussion. And I do think that it's a big enough issue that I think city council would benefit from weighing in on it. Because as Mr. Blue said, you're not likely to be the only one facing a challenge like this, given what TxDOT is doing, not just on 1560, but I guess pretty much everywhere.
Mhm.
So, I mean, another time around, we could have a motion after that. So,
One more point I wanted to make, and it's more just educational point is, unfortunately, I'm not going to mention the name of the folks, but, there are companies out there that specialize in monument signs, freestanding signs, and a lot of them are very well versed on this. And you say, hey, I'm in Helotes or near Helotes, and it's like, oh, we better check on that, and let me make sure. Let me call city or Chico Amico to check and make sure that whether or not we need to get this permitted or run it up the flagpole with the city staff or whatever it is. And then you get a lot of these companies that just kind of print stuff
Mhm.
and they don't care. I mean, they're just like, give me
Yeah.
my money, I'll print it, here you go, it's your problem. And that, unfortunately, and I don't, believe me, obviously, sign companies are a lot more money probably. But they're just, these guys, they're kind
Yeah,
of doing you.
that's
a
I mean,
disservice
we
by
went
not-
with Eagle, we went with Eagle for graphics right there, so I just assumed that they being, I mean, they're like next door, so I just assumed that it was all right, but anyhow.
Okay. Buck?
No, I mean, as it said, no good deed goes unpunished. You had no choice. You had to do it, but it appears to be more of a rebuild instead of just a maintenance, change the color, change the graphics and stuff. The one sign is obviously, twice the size, the V, instead of just two-sided, it's, now. But it appears to be more of a rebuild, total rebuild for the signs.
Okay.
Ann or Alex?
No, I just, I would hope that maybe they could give you some kind of refund on this. I think you starting over would even be better for you just aesthetically. And like he was mentioning, I love that burning bush sign on your gate. I mean, and if it makes you feel any better, everybody in the Helotes area that I know, we all know what you guys do and how great you are. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's like, oh, take it to Burning Bush. Oh, take it to, and everybody knows, in the area. So that's good. I'm just sorry we couldn't help you on this, or I couldn't. Go
Well, there's
ahead.
no motion yet, so you still.
Yeah.
So it's my turn, sorry. So I'm leaning towards the recommendation to approve, and I understand all of the negative things that are potentials there, but I also have to go back to the fact that when you talk about the fact that city council did approve the addition of the lower section of that sign when they were in the ETJ. Am I correct, Michael? Okay.
City
So-
council or P&Z?
Both.
Z and council
P&Z.
both approved the fact that the sign that was there before, which when you think about the surface area of that sign, the sign before was two-sided. It's still two-sided because nobody sees the backside. So it's the same surface area that was there before, except that it's just now spread open. We have a sign, we have other signs in the city that have that. There's one on Whippoorwill and 16, okay? And so I think that from that perspective, you could say it is a maintenance to some extent. It's stretching it, but because it does alter it, but really the surface area of the sign has been refinished, which is exactly what maintenance is about, right? The height is the same, the surface area is the same, the location is different. You could argue that that's not necessarily maintenance, but that wasn't the thing. So I'm struggling with everybody. I don't know that we need a hard no, but I think that there has to be some latitude without, if we call it a maintenance issue, then I'm not sure we do the full-blown precedent that we're concerned about approving a pole sign, which this body doesn't regularly do at all. And I think that given that this item is recommendation, all of these arguments are going to end up going to council.
This is,
It's an
approval.
it's an approval.
Yeah, it is an approval item.
It's
He's talking about the
approved that they
appeal.
can appeal to council.
And even for the
Okay.
maintenance with that other street coming in, like, could we say that that's maintenance? Because it's like, we were in here last time, y'all approved I think it was a coffee shop or something. They were doing a V sign or something in front of theirs because they were on the corner. And so I know in the stuff, it says that it can be a V sign as long as it's on like a corner. And I mean, it's going to be a major corner. Like I said, there's,
You're allowed a sign for the road, every road.
yeah, like each road or whatever.
right.
And
Your
so-
property technically is only on one road.
Yeah.
If you were on an intersection in the corner, you would have two sides. You only have
Yeah.
one side.
And I
So-
believe he's referring to a directional sign.
Yeah, and that's different. So anyways, I know you
So
want to
let's
get to a motion.
Not to cut you off. Go ahead and sit down. I think we're good on questions. Let's see if we could hash something out and at least give you something you can know, like where to go next or what to do with, whether it's approval here or not. So with that, unless there are more questions, I think we ought to have a motion of some type that we can discuss. And if there's a preference to separating A and B, that's okay too. or we could handle them as one item. I'll leave that up to whoever wishes to kick off a motion.
I'll throw something in that might help. I don't know if it helped, but if y'all just let me leave my V sign alone, I'll take the other little sign down.
Right.
If that helps anything, I don't just,
Okay, I mean, that's useful to hear, but let's,
I'm just trying to get something done, so I don't,
no, I
I'm
think,
sure y'all are getting tired of seeing me, and I'm getting tired of coming.
well, we want resolution for you. You're kind of sort of in this other zone at the moment, so let us try to get something done here. Be patient.
Sorry, I just crashed my browser.
You did.
Get it back.
We have a hard copy if you.
That's okay, I got it.
There you go, Denise.
Anybody?
So I have a question. So if we denied approval through the maintenance as, exception, can they still bring it again through a variance of a non-conforming, sign that, if they took down that B sign and just had the A sign,
Michael, I
They
don't
bring it-
believe so
they can't, or
at that point.
because the only way the non-conforming, you're saying, is the only way it can get in is under maintenance. But before they came up and they just wanted a variance because you had the checklist and it didn't conform.
So
um,
So previous to this, what the applicant, there was a misunderstanding because what the applicant was trying to do was back into a category.
mhm.
So without actually building like a monument sign or a multi-tenant sign. So this was the best route for the existing sign and for what they,
Okay,
and to how they modified it, for lack of a better word.
okay.
Now, my understanding is that like if it gets disapproved, then it goes before city council and that's pretty much stops there. So they would have the final say.
Okay, I'm gonna do a motion to deny approval and y'all can,
So first make the motion.
yeah, so
If
that
it's a
way,
second.
so that we can, so you know clearly what the yay and nays are. Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to deny approval of the request by Waylon Wymeyer for the two non-conforming signs that were relocated due to the FM 1560 roadway expansion by TxDOT.
And that's for signs A and B.
For signs A and B.
Okay, so is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Okay, so now there's at least a motion. So discussion of the motion.
I don't have any further.
Anything further?
Yeah, I think, I think there's some grounds for us to look at A, but I think I would feel more comfortable with this being a variance kind of situation just because there's some hardships, and extenuating circumstances. And I sort of feel like we're still trying to back our way into this. I know it's kind of semantics, but again, the precedent, the problem is, and to kind of glom onto what was said earlier, is, anybody who comes along and just kind of builds a sign that is super non-conforming and just say, well, we've got this issue, as you said, of other signs, and other people have come from this ETJ, and there's grounds, but I think we can't just like let people build a sign and set the precedent of having people build a sign and then kind of backing into justification for it afterwards. I don't think that sets a very good precedent.
Buck, anything further?
No, I agree that I'm concerned about setting the precedents.
Anything further?
Yeah, actually, I do. If as the motion and the item is here is calling it non-conforming, it's different than approving it as a variance, right? Because approving it as a variance says that we've allowed it completely, and it would also allow that variance to be carried forward beyond maintenance as long as it stayed substantially the same.
Mhm.
Calling it a non-conforming sign, which is the request as it is in our agenda item,
Mhm.
does not allow further modifications of it short of really just a resurfacing of the sign in the future. So I do think it's a slightly different approach than the precedent to worry about somebody coming in with a new sign, because this would be still designated non-conforming as opposed to an approved variance sign.
All right, so the motion to act on this, the motion is to deny the request by Wayland Waymeyer for the two non-conforming signs relocated due to the FM 1560 roadway construction by TxDOT, considering the required located signs pursuant to codes, chapter 66 signs, section 61 non-conforming signs for burning bush, situated in the city of Helotes, extraterritorial jurisdiction 10020 North, FM 1560. The two signs being sign A located at the entrance of 10020 North FM 1560 and sign B along FM 1560, 327 feet south from the entrance. So all in favor of the motion, please signal aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, so the motion carries to deny. And what I said earlier, which may have been a little premature, but I've just reemphasized it now, to talk with staff. There is an appeal process, and I think it's a significant enough issue. The circumstances being what they are, the council should weigh in on this. And you brought up about possibly, pulling one of the signs back. I mean, if this is appealed to council, you can craft it in that way that might be helpful to the process. So
Just so we're clear, though, I could cut those signs down and put my other signs back, correct? Because then it is just maintenance. I'm just moving them back.
I think talk with staff about that before you do it, please.
I was like, well, this was not when I first.
Right, no, because I mean, it's sort of,
They weren't painted, but I was like, okay,
please reach out to staff though before you do it, just so everybody's clear on what's allowed, what's not. Don't want to, to cause any more, difficulty for you and try to get this resolved. So, all right. So maybe tomorrow I'll catch Michael and sort of talk about what next steps are. And council meets twice a month. And so there is an avenue for you to be heard. And I think as you've heard the conversation up here, there's
I'll say that's not
no,
okay to do that then all of a sudden, because I mean.
I'll go cut them down just yet.
just don't do anything. Like,
You may not get them back up again.
Put them in a big 18 wheelers percent.
I don't blame you. Well, thank you for coming in and, trying to work through this process. So we're going to move on with our agenda. We are going to move to number 7, which is discussion and action on the request by Kenneth Dempsey for approval of a conceptual design plan establishing the site idea for Old Town Helotes Family Food Park, 14769 Old Bandera Road, including the site plan, general building concept, exterior lighting, and signage. Michael, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you for waiting, Ken.
He's used to waiting.
So we have the applicant here, obviously he's present. This is the final, so this is obviously not to scale, but this is what the applicant submitted. We're pretty much labeled everything here. One of the things that wasn't labeled that I just do want to point out is that this backs up into the bluffs, the gardens. Okay, so the gardens is on this side. This is the bride's house. So the food truck park will be separated by a wall here. Is that correct, Mr. Dempsey?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's the only thing I think I needed to point out, but other than that, I think.
Okay. Let's see, I guess leave that one up for now. If you
Okay.
want to look at others. I would open the floor to comments or questions, and we have the applicant here. And maybe I'll start, maybe Ken, come on up and put your name and.
Yeah, my name's Ken Dempsey, live at 14203 Circle A Trail.
So can you tell us, unless I missed this, the building that will be out there, the actual structure, what is the intended use of this?
That will be a bar very similar if you've been over on UTSA Boulevard, where you have a small bar and then an open patio area. And it's actually designed as kind of a little history on it, is that as you go around Old Town, a lot of things is where do you eat in Old Town? There's just not much. And then I started checking and found out that, of course, Pete Place, they don't want families, and Wine 101, they even have it on their menu, no kids after 7. And if you go to the other end, people don't want families. They want to sell alcohol. So the thought was, let's have a family food park. So it would be an area that adults can come, have a drink at a bar, but along with it will be several food trucks, depending upon how busy it gets. There'll be a 5,000 square feet, which is basically anything that's not concrete or decomposed granite where the trucks sit will be grass, synthetic grass. Part of that will be a little miniature golf course, as well as I call it a stand-up sandbox, which means as the children go in, they don't have to get out in the sand. We're going to have like what would be a horse trough, and they go up and they can play in the sand, things like that. But it's going to be designed for families.
So the bar you mentioned, will that have, you mentioned that place on UTSA Boulevard, his name escapes me, but will it have?
Block.
What's it called?
The Block.
Block. Will yours have indoor service, or will it be oriented towards serving people like a counter to then go into the?
Well, the way the building's going to be designed, it's going to be closed up with a 16 to 18 foot overhead door. When they open the door, the chairs are there.
I see.
They're not going to be on the outside. And the idea is it gives a place for the adults to sit and, converse with the neighbors.
Right.
And it's just something we wanted to do to bring families into the area.
And one other question I have, and I'll turn it over to the others, is have you, I would think that
Turn it off.
noise like that, like noise and light mitigation steps, we had a conversation with another applicant recently about pickleball,
Mhm.
which is loud.
Well, that's what this is going to have too.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's something that needs to be considered is to mitigate that type of sound from expanding way outside your property.
Well,
especially
to
in
keep it
contact
away
with
from the wedding venue
Right,
is that, as Michael had said, I want a 7-foot wall, which will be stuccoed and then covered. And on the wedding side, of course, we're going to make it more conducive to flowers and such. And on the other side, it's whatever we come up with. But I don't know if it would be any louder than that is currently at Pete's Place for music. I mean, and I don't complain. I think it's great, brings in a lot of people. And of course, at the wedding venue, we have DJs.
right.
And
Yeah.
it's also pretty loud. So I couldn't imagine anything coming out of here that would be louder than what's existing.
One last thing, will there be live music? Is that envisioned live music?
No.
Okay.
Well, I say that. My son-in-law wants to know if he can play an acoustic guitar on the patio,
Okay, let me open it up to others with comments or questions.
I'll start. So the food truck pads, is that 10 pads, 5 on each side?
We're hoping to accommodate, not that all of them will be hooked up. Our intent here is, first of all, if you go over there in the evenings, it's really quite busy, which made me think this is a conducive of having food trucks. Now, this isn't just a normal food truck park, because what's required by a food truck, and I've been to almost every park in the area trying to learn, is that they periodically, and I've heard everything from every day, every week to every month, have to disconnect, go over and dump gray water, and then put in fresh water and then come back. And it's called a commissary, and we're creating a commissary. We've got it already contracted or not in ink, but they've designed a sewer system that's going to furnish for the bar and the restrooms. And as well, it's going to be designed around the sides so the food trucks can stay permanently hooked up. And they'll be permanently hooked up to water as well as the sewer. So they never have to leave.
Okay. So the idea is, the concept is to have some folks permanent, but you can also have the special of the week truck.
That is correct. We're going to have some, at least maybe 2 that can be transient and that just want to come for the Saturday. Other ones call it their restaurant. They want to come, they want to hook up, and they're going to be happy where they're at.
And are you going to provide additional parking? Is there?
Yeah, the parking,
Parking's
the
kinda
parking
tight,
as you see in the front, we may have exaggerated the truth there a little bit, but not by much. Right now, I'm thinking we have, because right now it's being used as a free parking. People from Pete's and from, Floor Country Store, everybody knows there's no charge to park on that 1 acre. And they park them on top of each other. Now, what we're doing is by taking that up, says, well, you eliminated any parking. Well, any of those lines you see at the bottom, we're going to have parallel park or perpendicular parking along the road that goes in.
So you're basically share a parking lot with Pete's, kind of, is that
Well, parking
Pete's at the
lot,
other end and you're,
yeah, we're directly across from Pete's Place, yeah.
okay.
So just to
So
clarify,
we'll be, if anything, we'll be gaining spots, not by many, but by a few, than that is currently there. And it's parking just for the public to use.
Jason.
So just to comment on what he said, where we see it says no truck spaces, that's where that driveway, the new paved driveway is going back into the
The wedding venue?
yeah, and you keep going to the left of the drawing and that takes you to the apartments. Is that
That's correct.
accurate? Okay. And so these are like angled spots. It doesn't look not quite perpendicular, but like 70-degree angled spots off of that main drag they can pull
And that
into.
main drag, anywhere from where our property starts, will be
Okay.
parking, with the exception of where the food trucks will be pulling in. And then with a 4-foot opening in the center of it. And then we might have one again at the end, just a man door, so to speak.
A couple other questions. So that, and you said it'll more or less make up what is being taken away by that unpaved lot, right, currently?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay.
Only because I know we need parking for the family food park. This is what's existing is not a required parking lot. It's just used because it's there and it's free.
Okay. Are you paving those spots? Is that going to be?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
We're going to add 24 feet extended asphalt off the existing.
So that building, I saw some reference to bathrooms. I presume you're going to have like a multi-use or multi-stall bathrooms to accommodate because it's
Yeah,
essentially a restaurant, right? I mean, and it will have a fair amount.
Yeah, it'll be similar to the one we have at the Bluffs down the street, where I like the idea of no doors, but
Yeah.
we're hearing controversy now. You better put doors on them.
And then it's one kind of minor nitpicky. It looked like at least one wall was skin and CMU. I know that, our hands are tied somewhat about materials, but this is Old Town. And I think that we are still sort of bound by the Helotes, the zoning regarding materials within the limits of that jurisdiction. I'm not quite sure CMU serves that well. But beyond that, this is a great project and I'd be very excited to see something like this here.
Anna.
I have no questions. I look forward to seeing a project like this as well.
Alex.
Well, thanks, Jason, for all the thorough questioning on that. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a wonderful thing, and I'm looking forward to seeing it develop. I did have a question though, and it's really not so much something that this body will deal with, but when you indicated that you're going to have a food truck, the implication is the food trucks are mobile by their definition. And they obviously come under different sort of regulation because of their mobile status. If you make one where it's permanently hooked up to utilities, how does that alter the city's approach to food quality and inspections and things of that nature now that it's no longer a mobile truck, but a pretty permanent fixture? And I'm just saying, not bearing here, but that's something that I think that maybe you need to have a conversation to think about how to prepare for what the city's going to do, the inspectors, the codes, and that kind of thing. Because we've had the question about food venues and whether or not a food truck, we had the situation where somebody had put a food truck in and then they built around the food truck, wanted to call it a food truck, but now it was a permanent fixture and building, and it completely altered what could be done in the zoning because it was no longer mobile. So I'm thinking about that kind of perspective, just to kind of give you something else to ask to make sure that you don't get far enough down the line that they're like, oh, by the way, now you have to move them, that kind of thing.
The food truck itself still has to go under a completely different inspection through the fire department and so forth. That would be completely different than what I'm doing. Now, to make it permanent, you can say they're not taking the wheels off of it.
No.
They're just going to have to disconnect their hose if they want to go service an event somewhere else. So
the other question I have is, a lot of food trucks run on generators. Are you providing electrical? Or are they
yeah,
still
we're
gonna run
providing a
generators
50
for-
amp plug at
Okay.
each truck location, as well as a drain at each possible location. And again, we don't think we're going to put in 10 trucks here
Okay.
in day one. We might have day one, have 2 or 3 until the business picks up.
No, I'm thinking from the perspective of if they have to run a generator, that you have noise, you have fuel,
Mhm.
potential spills and such like that, but then you also have exhaust. So none of that is the one you want right amount a bunch of kids too. So I think you've got a well thought out plan, and I appreciate all the work you've done in it.
Yeah, the boxes will be on that wall that Michael mentioned. We're going to put a 50 amp with a 20 amp at each location for them to plug into.
Perfect. Just too quick and almost for Michael. So it is, thank you for Alex for asking about that. So that Old Town does allow restaurants. I mean, it is allowed by zoning anyway, even if they were permanent fixtures within this particular piece of property. Like it's almost irrelevant whether a food truck or a brick and mortar restaurant, as I understand it.
With the food truck park itself is allowed by right.
Yep.
So.
And then the second, it's just a quick point. I was checking the zoning map, and in fact, this lot is actually surrounded on all 4 sides by other commercially zoned, or they B2,
Correct.
B3 Old Town District properties. And so there isn't any, buffer zones or anything like that would be, onerous to a residential neighbor. So.
I have one more question. Old Town is the only area in Helotes that has an impervious cover restriction. With the paving of the additional parking, we're not running into a problem there.
So one of the things that, Ken and I discussed is that, how he mentioned, for example, the parking lot, that it's exaggerated. So there's some factors that haven't been reviewed yet,
Okay.
For this conceptual design. So that being previous coverage.
Yeah, but you could do crushed granite, and you could do all sorts of things that create the
Correct.
pervious as opposed
And
to
I'm more
impervious,
referring
yeah.
to, like, for example, the city engineer having to look at it and the city inspector looking at, or the fire marshal giving them more parameters as far as like how far the trucks have to be apart from each other or from the public in general. And so those kinds of things are still up on the table
Still
for
working.
review.
Right.
It's just a concept. I think it's
Yep.
very important.
Yeah, they've already paved my easement.
Yeah.
And then some. I mean, that wasn't me that paved it, it was them, but it's still impervious cover.
Great, thank you. I think we can have a motion at this point and discuss it.
Motion.
Please.
I'll make a motion for approval
Ask you to read it out if you would. It's kind of,
On item number 7,
I'm sorry, we are recommending, excuse me. This is a recommendation item. Recommend for,
I recommend for approval on item number 7, request by Kenneth Dempsey for approval on conceptual design plan establishing the site ideal for Old Town Helotes Family Food Park located at 14769 Old Bandera Road in Helotes, Texas. And that is the site plan, general building concept, exterior lighting, and signage.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Great, thank you. Any discussion of the motion? Buck, Jason? Ann?
Did you need to review the sign?
I was gonna say, sign looks great.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
We better at least say something about the sign.
I know, I
Yeah,
think,
Michael,
looks
if you
great.
could-
Thank you.
if you could show them that other, the putting area and such like that, because there's.
we saw that.
Oh, did you?
We all
Okay.
have the material. Yeah.
Show them the
Okay.
lighting area.
Wasn't there a 25-foot tall one on the back? No, okay.
Just don't put it on a pole.
Bunch of wise guys around here.
Yeah,
So the motion is to recommend approval of the request by Kenneth Dempsey for the conceptual design plan establishing the site idea for Old Town Helotes Family Food Park, 14769 Old Bandera Road, Helotes, including site plan, general building concept, exterior lighting, and signage. All in favor of the motion, signal aye.
Aye.
Opposed. This motion is approved and it will go to city council, Michael, on what date?
I'm not for sure certain, but I would say it's the last one of August, which would be,
First, second,
give me 1 second here,
20,
and I do
24.
want to tell you, I appreciate
24.
everything you guys do. I should have sucked up ahead of time.
Yeah, you should have. You're late, Alex.
But,
I think those letters are too small. Okay?
well, that's,
That sounds like a task for you guys.
yeah.
But thank you,
The
Ken. for the
concept
kind
is
words.
good.
We have come to the conclusion of the agenda. Do we have a motion to go to adjourn and go?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Jason and Nat, all in favor of adjourning at 8:02, please signal aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we stand adjourned. Good night. Thank you. Please catch your lights and
Have it on here.